Thank you very much for joining us on Skyy TV again. Now, my guest on Hot Seat can be generously described as a bulldozer journalist. In fact, very many accomplished Ghanaian journalists admit that fact freely. He is no ordinary journalist. He has been an editor of the most celebrated private newspaper in Ghana, and that private newspaper he is also the publisher. He has tasted what life is like in prison. In fact, it's the James Fort prison. His face is not really known, and that's because not many photographers have clicked on his face. His phenomenal success has been interpreted by many as meaning that he's probably the richest Ghanaian journalist. Well, he doesn't like talking, but today he would speak. My guest, in fact, is also a product of the Harvard University, and his goes by the name Nana Kofi Coomson. Kofi, thanks for joining us on Hot Seat.
Thank you. What an array of compliments.
Is it? Well, and I thought I left out so much. So, Kofi, who is a journalist?
Well, there's no hard and fast rules about who is a journalist. Journalist is anybody who has an opinion to share and who can communicate. In fact, the most constitutions, the U.S. Constitution, the Ghana Constitution, does not prescribe anything as to who is a journalist. Anybody who can write and can communicate. Anybody who writes a letter to the editor is a journalist. But of course, there are cardinal rules, there are codes that regulate the conduct of a journalist. And it is generally not written. But the code of conduct it varies from country to country. In Ghana, the code of conduct is prescribed by the Ghana Journalists Association. And then the Private Newspaper Publishers Association. So really, anybody who has information and has the ability to put it across is a journalist.
And the question of who is a journalist has been debated over the world and continues to be debated.
It's been debated in Ghana because the rest of the world, it is not a big deal. It's accepted. Anybody can be a publisher, provided if you can put money together and start a newspaper, start a radio station, start a journal, start a magazine, you are a publisher. And it goes to say that you don't really need certain qualifications to become a publisher. You may be an illiterate, but you may have money, you can put it out and set up a newspaper, you are a publisher.
So you are the publisher of Ghanaian Chronicle.
It's not a big deal. It's not a big deal at all. It's not a big deal. I'm sorry if you think it is. I'm sorry, it is not a big deal.
So you only had money. Anyway, how did you become a journalist?
And it's a long story. I think I became a journalist by accident. It started not in this country, thank God. It started in Nigeria in the late 70s.
You went to Nigeria?
Yeah.
What did you go to do there? I mean, why did you have to go to Nigeria?
Look, well, I will take you into another area of my life. It's a long story. But
you went to hustle?
You could say that. In most people who are in positions of authority now in Ghana found their way in Nigeria.
So you know Agege?
Like, I know Agege like that. In fact, I know Nigeria, and I've been to most places in Nigeria more than I've been to in Ghana. Kwesibojo was in Nigeria. Bambiredu was in Nigeria. I can mention names of people who were in Nigeria in the late 70s to see greener pastures.
So
a lot of the
did
universities.
you get a chance to sleep outside in Nigeria? I mean, was there a time when you didn't have accommodation in Nigeria? Had to sleep on the street boy?
Well, it's never smooth from the get-go. There have been rough times in everybody's life, And so I went through my share as a young man, as a very young man. I was about 19. I was 19 when I went to Nigeria, and I didn't know anything else. I found myself working in a printing press the first 3 months, a printing press, and eventually found myself in a newspaper office called Daily Express. That's where my journey into journalism began.
The Daily Express is still publishing?
No, it went defunct.
I see. So, why is it you don't like talking?
I think that once I have a newspaper and I can write and communicate my thoughts and ideas and what I believe in the newspaper, it's a medium that does not inhibit me, you know. So I'd rather let my pen do the talking and give people the chance to talk on radio or anywhere else. And I welcome people writing into my newspaper, letters to the editor, if you have any ideas. So the paper is open to a broad spectrum of ideas and opinions. So anybody can write. I choose to let my pen do the talking and give space for others who want to talk on radio or to talk everywhere else. So I rather don't want to crowd the space. I mean, I'm writing a newspaper, I have a mouth, I have a pen, which acts as a medium of expression. So I don't think that I necessarily have to be, crowded the airspace with my voice as well. When others, I mean, the space is limited. I'll rather give people the chance to do more talking and let me also maximize my little corner and talk through my pen.
Some people who will be watching this program will be happy for the cameramen who have been able to capture your face. Was it intentional that your face was hidden from the public for so long?
Actually, yes. It was deliberate because I set out to start a newspaper when I was in England. And I had an idea, thankfully, which took root in Nigeria. Because I worked in Nigeria in the media, and I actually became an editor of a newspaper in Nigeria when I was about 22. I'd called The Nationalist. So most people don't know me. So when I just happened onto the scene, and maybe the person who probably knew me is Mr. Edward Ameibo, who was the president of the Ghana Journalists Association, because he was
with the GNA.
He was then the GNA correspondent in Lagos, Nigeria. So I used to go to Ghana High Commission in Nigeria, and I saw him there. And so he's probably the only person who knows me as a journalist from Nigeria.
So you just made up your mind not to have your face known?
Yes, because when I was a reporter in Nigeria, I was into investigative journalism because that's what it is in Nigeria. I mean, we are not used to this press conference type of reporting.
He said.
So, and I was, again, I was controversial in Nigeria because that's how, I mean, it is high octane politics in Nigeria. And the stakes were very high. That was when the NPA, National Party of Nigeria, of Alhaji Shehu Shagari, and the United Party of Nigeria were battling it out for the presidency. And the publisher of the newspaper that I worked for, in fact, I later on became editor, called The National, was Alhaji Waziri Ibrahim, the late Alhaji Waziri Ibrahim. He was then the presidential candidate of the great Nigeria People's Party. And we used to go around Nigeria. He was an immensely wealthy man. He used to travel around Nigeria, a chartered aircraft, and we would he buys vehicles when he goes to the next region, and then we just ride to the next region to campaign in the sticks of the constituencies that we were traveling into. And I was the editor, and I used to report write stories. It was for the newspaper. So I got to know Nigeria very well.
Do you speak any of the local languages, Hausa?
I had a smattering of Yoruba, and I saw a few choice races in Igbo.
And that's it?
And then really, that's it.
So in all, how long were you in Nigeria?
4 years.
4 years.
Yeah.
And then became an Indian. And then you went to UK. Why did you go to UK?
I decided, God has given me a gift of foresight. I knew that Nigeria was not the place for me for the long term, and I knew that the time was going to come when I should go home. And then I had to think about tomorrow. So even whilst I was working, I worked for a number of newspapers and magazines. I was working for one paper, the New Breed, and the New Times organization, which had a very tough publisher, Chief Chris Okoli. And I was a star writer. He discovered me. And I used to read his business plan. And so I actually read the business plan of Chief Okoli's New Times magazine and the President magazine. This was business magazine and a news magazine. And I was a group editor of both the New Breed, which is a business magazine, and New Times, which is a news magazine. And I was editor, a features editor for both. So I was a group features editor. And so I actually took a copy of his business plan. We're talking about 79, thereabouts.
And was it legal for you to do that?
As a young man, I didn't know anything. So I knew that I wanted
curious.
to be. Well, I was setting my plans for tomorrow. So, that's how late back it went to. My vision to go into publishing was formulated at that period, at that time. Yeah, so I kept this business plan until 1990.
When you had a Chronicle idea.
One idea, it was in the back then, but you needed to have capital. You needed to have money, and
So
I had to go to.
Before that, so how long did you stay in UK when you left Nigeria? I mean, yes, you've been in and out, but then before Chronicle, how long were you there?
Yeah, I was not in UK continuously. I traveled within the continent.
Of Europe?
Yes. And I stayed in the UK on and off for 4 years. 4 years on and off. And actually worked as the London correspondent of the Daily Times of Nigeria, Sunday Times of Nigeria, which is part of the Daily Times group. And I did my stint there, and then, did a few things on the side.
So you're a Takoradi boy?
Very much a Takoradi boy, and I'm a citizen of Ghana, a citizen of the world. Because I live in Accra, I live in Takoradi, I live in the Phillip Nyakpo. I come from Cape Coast. My father is from Kofi Nyakpo. But I was born in D compound, new site, Efiokuma. Takoradi. Efiokuma.
So, how did you grow up? Obviously, before leaving for Nigeria at 19.
My father was a district commissioner in Nkrumah's regime, and so we had
obviously in the 1960s.
Yes. I think we had a privileged childhood. I had a privileged childhood because my father was a big man, and I didn't know anything then. So I went to international school. I went to SNAPS preparatory school in Accra. They sent me off there. I remember sitting in the back seat in my father's Mercedes-Benz 180, and had police. Is it escort? I think we had some orderlies. Yes. So because I'm the 10th of 14 children, so there were big boys and girls in front. Before I did come, yeah. So I have a vague recollection that it was a bit of a cushy until 1966, when I was in preparatory school. The coup came, and my father is a very principled man.
What was his name?
J.S. Coomson. He's a deep Christian, and that's where I got my values from. I think I'm a reflection of my father. He was principled, he said it as it is, And when the coup came and all these probes were gone, he was thrown into Usherford prison. And I was lucky I made it to Jamesford prison, because Usherford prison is next door to Jamesford prison. It's closed down now. I think it's some kind of a museum now. So I was too young to know anything. I think that was around at the time that my mother had to leave the official residence and come to Takoradi, where my father lived. He had one of these estate houses at K compound, and my mother lived in D compound. And my mother stayed in Cape Coast, his family home, and moved to Takoradi later on. And that's where really real life began, because there was no father. He was then in prison, and then even when he came for prison, he was out of a job. And my senior brothers and sisters already had grown up. So
but he's dead now, I mean, your father.
He died 27, 28 years ago.
Your mother is alive?
My mother is alive.
In Takoradi?
Yeah, in Takoradi.
What kind of person is she?
She has strong values. She's also rooted in Christian values. So it's very strong.
So she's been following your exploits, I mean, particularly from 92 when Chronicle came. Well, that's even latter part of 91, right?
Well, she had, people will go and tell her things.
Because she doesn't read or what?
She doesn't read newspapers, though she gets them. She has problem with reading. She has reading glasses, but she will not read. People will tell her. And obviously, she loves radio.
What do they tell her?
They tell her scary stories.
Like?
And then she will come to me in Accra or send for me and agonize and tell me to leave Rawlings alone and don't get into problems with Rawlings. And I really didn't want her to know a lot of things, but somehow she will learn. And then it was my biggest problem. Mom
was it?
Getting to know. Yeah, it was a problem for Mom getting to know about what I was going through in Accra. And I remember she wrote a letter, an open letter to Rawlings that I didn't publish, telling Rawlings to leave me alone. I remember Rawlings' mother also intervening publicly, accusing the Chronicle of harassing her son.
So why didn't you, Kofi, publish your mother's letter?
That's a good question. I have no good answer. I have no good answer, and I probably regret it.
So given a chance again, you would have published it?
I would publish it, and so I didn't want people to think, I think I should, I'm a grown-up now. I'm more introspective. I think now I'm a more mature person. Age has a way of...
so you were not mature in 91, 92?
No.
How do you mean?
No, I was not, because the things that I did on reflection, I probably have done them slightly differently.
Like what? Give me an example.
Like dangerous things.
Dangerous things like what?
Like taking on Chachukata.
It
was a fear. I mean,
why was it dangerous?
No, because everybody, the name Chikata invokes fear in Ghana. And I was naive. And I know a publisher, a colleague of mine, who had decreed that nobody writes about Ahoy and Chikata in his paper. He doesn't want any problems. You know.
So it wasn't that you were courageous. You were just...
No, I don't know. I don't know. I just followed the path of truth. If it is true, why shouldn't I say it? And that is me. If it is true, why shouldn't I? I wouldn't think about it and say, maybe they will come and arrest you, and they will put you in jail or throw you. By the way, I researched about prison. I knew I was going to end up in prison.
You knew?
Yes, I knew.
You still did it?
Yeah, I still did it because I researched. I spoke to Ben Efson. I had a lot of conversation with Ben Efson, and I spoke to Kwame Pianim and asked them. Pratt, yes. Kokubakon, yes. Particularly Kwame Pianim and Ben Efson, because they had tasted prison life, both in BNI and Kwame Pianim in prison, real prison. So I asked them about life in prison, preparing myself for the day I would end up in prison. So I psychologically was prepared But when it happens, it's a different thing.
Are you a person of courage? Because someone says you're a coward.
Yeah, I'm a coward. But people think I'm brave. Most people think I'm brave.
Tony Osei, you know him because you employed him once.
Yes.
He said Kofi is a coward.
Yes, it's true. It's true, but I will do it. So, but a lot of people will not agree with me when I tell them I'm a coward. Because the things that I do are not things for the faint-hearted. Are not things that...
Dangerous things.
I think so. Because like one of my boys, Raymond Archer, when I was launching his paper 2 days ago, last week, The Enquirer, I said that the minute Raymond Archer went to Burma camp to investigate and take pictures of the torture chambers at the Burma camp, and I tried to hold him back, was when I knew I had gone potty, that I'm an old man. Because the things he was doing were things that I would have done, but now I probably wouldn't have the courage to do it. But you see, youth has a way of giving you some courage. You don't think, you're not too reflective. I'm a little bit more reflective now. I think too much. I'm more reflective. And maybe I studied law recently. I went to law school in England last year. And I'm a little bit more reticent. But I'm glad that I did the things when I was a lot younger. And I probably wouldn't have the oomph to do it now. But yes, I'm glad I did it, and the record is there for everybody to see.
Well, Kofi, so what was the last school you attended before leaving Ghana for Nigeria?
Leaving Ghana? Oh, Agri Memorial Secondary School.
Mm-hmm. Who were some of your classmates then? Do you remember any of them?
In government, or I mean?
Well, I mean generally in Agri.
Yeah. There are people. Anokumi was the deputy director of BNI. Richard Anani was my schoolmate.
The roads and transport man.
Yes. Actually, when I was in lower 6, I think I was in Form 5.
So you knew him back then very well?
No, not very well. I knew him, and he knew me. There's the guy who calls me senior all the time, Nana Kumia.
The former information minister.
Yeah.
He was your mate?
No, he was my mate. He was way back behind me. He was my junior a lot. So he still calls me junior. I think when I was in lower 6, I was in Form 1 or Form 2. Yes.
So you are old. How old are you now?
I'm 48.
48. Like Ghana?
Pardon?
Like Ghana?
Yes.
Ghana is 48.
Yeah.
I hope you know that. You should know that. Well, so you schooled in... I'm just wondering if you recognize this photo. I'm sure the camera will pick it.
Where did you get this picture from?
I hope I'm a journalist. Okay, so tell me, what picture is this?
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah, that's Bani Mtombothi. This is Harvard University. Bani Mtombothi is the South African, he is SABC, South African Broadcasting Corporation. He's the chief executive. Oh, this is Harvard, the Nieman Fellows at Harvard University. Well, they are all journalists. Yes. This is the only black. This is all New York Times, Washington Post. All these boys are big journalists in their respective, from their respective. There are 12 American journalists and 12 international journalists. And we make up the class of 93, 94 at Harvard University, Nieman Fellowship.
And in this photo, you stand out still.
Yeah, because maybe I'm the black man who's the only black man squatting.
Oh, you are the only black man, right?
No, I'm the only one from West Africa.
Squatting
yes.
From West Africa.
Yes.
And with 2 thumbs up.
Yes.
Why did you decide to have this pose?
No reason. I just wanted to people to remember me for the pictures. I'm sure you pulled this from the net.
Well, so what did they give you? I mean, the Nieman fellowship at Harvard University back in 93, 94. What did he give you? What did you gain from it?
I think it was the most stimulating 1 year of my life as a student and as a journalist, because as a Nieman Fellow, you had I was first not just an ordinary student, but I was a fellow. That gave me certain privileges. I could audit many courses, and I could take courses for credit as well. And I wanted to do journalism, but Harvard doesn't offer journalism. So next door, Boston University has a journalism program. And I went to Boston University to try and get into Boston University and study journalism at the university. Do you know that they actually said I should teach the class? They said, no, not a Nieman Fellow. In fact, I turned out lecturing a class on propaganda.
Instead of being a student?
Instead of being a student at Boston University. So, and the director of the Nieman Fellow said, why should you go to Boston University and try and go and study there? Why do you lower yourself that way? And some of my mates, I remember he has a program on CNN, David Lewis. David Lewis is a CNN chief correspondent, chief investigative reporter. He was then the CNN reporter who had come onto the Nieman program. And I discussed it with him. He's an alumnus of Harvard. So he said, no way, you shouldn't teach. You shouldn't go and learn anything. He said he regrets going to learn journalism anyway because I didn't need to study it. As a Nieman Fellow, no. So instead, I went to the business school and spent time studying managing in developing countries at the Harvard Business School, and then studying corporate communications also at the Harvard Business School. And then later, the Kennedy School of Government, I studied security, national security. And it was a class with CIA agents and national security. It was a national security course. So those are the areas. And of course, later I went to audit a course in human rights law at the law school. So the opportunity to learn, which in any discipline of my choice, to audit those courses, not necessarily for credit. You had the opportunity to take some courses for credit. So I did managing in developing countries and corporate communications at the Harvard Business School, and then human rights law and national security at Kennedy School of Government and the law school at the same time. So it was a fantastic period, and we used to have lots and lots of weekly seminars from distinguished fellows who come and talk to us. It was packed, one full academic year, packed with exciting things. It was.
So
and
you will never forget the Nieman Fellowship. You will
well,
never forget.
No, and so we have a bond. I remember when I was sent to prison, they petitioned the president, the Nieman guys, and in fact, they started.
Rawlings then?
Yes, petitioned the government, and one of them, they sent me email, text messages. I said text messages, mail at the time, and said, look, we are praying for you. We are lobbying the president to let you off because you're not a criminal and all this. And they thought it was strange that a journalist should end up, because in that part of the world, they see things differently. And why should a journalist get locked up in prison? So it was alien to them, but it was real for me in Ghana.
Well, alien to some people, real to Kofi, and unreal to still many people. Unreal when he says he is a coward. Well, we'll be coming back after this break, and we will find out a couple of things. How he's able to do all the stories he's been doing, why he keeps chasing all the people he's been chasing. Edumadze and co. When we come back.
Apomuzimpa yawoza nasu aprabonu abrebrese ma obre ayempo na wada ne yerba ehonu na poku farmer bem Pakufama wo Ferodex na Jerry Fantu, Mojasisi Ndura, Oma Huodzen na Nimpa. Kafalden, Oye Mebunebun na Honam Yaw, Se Ebo ana Eweti Bena, we Durani Samale. We yefun ya we yaw ma eyin from a bon, one more rescue. The Mundrin in Nara, every do drug stores are papa or manini. Pakufama, why Jarisa yen in Niazi?
Thank you very much and welcome back. And my guest is still Nana Kofi Coomson of the Chronicle, the publisher. He was also once the editor, also once the president of the Private Newspaper Publishers Association, also once the best journalist in Ghana, and the following year by default he was still again Journalist of the Year. Well, Kofi Coomson, are you corrupt?
I'm wondering what you mean by corrupt.
Are you corrupt?
No.
How do you mean?
That's why
people say that you are a dark man in a dark alley and you do all sorts of things, and that is why you became successful. And you do things that could be called corrupt, could be said to be corrupt.
People do not know me. And when people don't know you, they fill the vacuum. They will imagine things. And they wonder, how come this man has been able to do this? And so they fill the void with all kinds of assumptions. I am not corrupt at all by this, at all. And I've never, ever used corrupt means to either enrich myself or
extort money.
It's not possible. It's not even possible. Because, you know, under the Rawlings administration, most people didn't know me. And so I was able to get stories and creep behind enemy lines and get stories. And stories, and people will tell you things when they trust you and know you will never squeal on them. And while the competition will probably, you will not find, it will be difficult to maybe to find somebody that you can trust to give information to. The way I carried myself made it easy for people to talk to me in confidence, because they know that once you told Kofi, you were sure that he will never reveal it. And I managed to rock the establishment with story after story after story. So people used to think, and at the Chronicle, we had a budget, a special budget for investigations.
Kofi, some people say at your back, behind you, that you blackmail people.
Yes, I've heard all those kinds of things, but it is never, nobody, and when people tell you, they say things behind your back, but they won't tell you in your face. Or even, I've heard these things said, but nobody has ever made any public. So to the extent that some high-placed government official said that, and I was not even in Ghana. So I heard it, and my staff told me about it, and I asked them to send me the tape on which they heard this thing said. And when they sent me the tape and I heard that he had said that, I was mad, but I said, I have to take this to court. So I took the matter to court, and it is in court. I've sued.
No, you don't want to mention him?
I think it's a matter of public record that Isaac Edumazi, the Central Regional Minister, made stuff, an allegation like that. But you see, the thing is in court, so, and it's still it's a pending trial. So
and you don't like Isaac Edumazi?
I don't know him as a person.
You haven't met him before?
No, we haven't met before. I've seen him before. In fact, I shook his hands in Parliament when he was the first veteran, because we gave him a lot of coverage when he was resisting, when he wanted to be an MP in Central Region. We, the Chronicle, specifically one of our Cape Coast correspondents, covered it once because he was under pressure from the NDC, and we gave him a lot of coverage. He didn't know that Mr. Dominic Jail of Chronicle and another individual correspondent, freelance journalist from the Chronicle, we gave him a lot of cover.
But Edumaji says publicly over and over again that Dominic Jail and Kofi Coomson don't like him. They are the ones who publish all the horrible stories.
Did he mention Dominic's name? I don't remember him mention Dominic's name at all.
He has mentioned it on some occasions.
Okay. I
Dominic
know.
Jail, of course, he says you pay him to do the things he does.
I pay Dominic Jail to do the things he does. Are you sure he said that?
Because he works for the Chronicle, works for you.
Well, I don't want to go to do these details, but I have not written anything on Isaac Edumazi myself, because when I was in England, Dominic J., which is one of the finest investigative reporters in the country, he followed up. I mean, people model, your reporters will look after you. I mean, try to be like you. So I did a lot of stories in those days on people like PV Obing, Ajay Mafo, and to the point that I sent some of them to Commission on Human Rights, charging them for corruption and unjust enrichment. So I could not possibly do the same thing. So when things changed, I didn't see the need to change principle because the new party had come into government, and I was part of the group who fought for this new dispensation.
And there's Reku Brobin, whom your paper didn't allow to brief, especially over the BRA saga. Why are you always chasing them? And then there's also, of course, Rawlings and then Anani, Richard Anani.
You see, like I said, well, are you talking about Chronicle or about Kofi Coomson? Can you distinguish Kofi Coomson from Chronicle?
Is it distinguishable?
I think people should be able to distinguish, except that I can't get it off my back. People always saying Kofi Coomson when they should be saying the Chronicle. And probably it's a cross I have to bear. I mean, if you watch the imprint of the Chronicle, you will not find my name there.
Anymore.
You will not find my name
now,
since 96, 97. I am not the editor. People still call me Kofi Coomson, editor of Chronicle, editor-in-chief of Chronicle. No, I'm not of the above. And for a little over 2 years, I was out of the country for 2 years. Yet, when they published a story about Isaac Edumazi and his building, I was not even in the country. For me to go to a place and take the picture of his house and publish it. Yet, the Honorable Minister says Kofi Coomson did it.
But then your reporters were being like you.
Yes. And I supported that. And if I were here, I'd probably give them medals. You know, I support it because it's a principle that I had set as a standard that I had set, and I expect them to follow because it's principles, not necessarily personality. So if you fall into that, then we don't mind whose ass is God. So if you happen to fall within the confines of the principle, then if it's Kofi Coomson, let it go. Let it hit Kofi Coomson. If it's Isaac Edumazi, let it hit him. Because ultimately, the country will be better off.
Are you that principled?
Yes, very much so. And because of my father, because of the Christian values that I imbibed from him. So there is no way.
But how do you mention those high-sounding values when people think of you as a dark horse, someone who's always out to just destroy lives?
Yeah, but I mean, that's people. What should you do? I'm not an evangelist. I'm not going to stand on a platform and respond to every one of these things. I don't even do that. So let it ride. The truth is like a cock. You can't suppress it forever. So I tormented Rawlings and his regime for years until they fell off. if they have an iota, and I publicly challenged it, and I still challenge it now, I am saying that anybody, any institution that has evidence of corruption against Kofi Coomson, I am saying, and it's an open challenge, it's a long-standing thing. I've said it before. Let them show it. Why hasn't Rawlings and his machinery given evidence about me to any newspaper or any to publish, to expose? Oh, he took money from this man. Never. It's not possible to find it because I don't do that. I'm a comfortable man. I'm a hustler. And I'm comfortable. Thank God. And I don't know why. Is it how much? How much is enough? No. You can't bribe me because you can't get enough money to bribe me because I'm comfortable. Thank God.
So you're a rich man?
I'm comfortable through hard work. And remember, I was born in D Compound, number 11. My mother had a one-room veranda house. I live in Beach Road now. And
a fashionable suburb in Takoradi.
Yes. And I can tell you the story of my life from the grass to where I am now. I'm comfortable. I don't need to sleep on a golden bed. But at least I have a comfortable place I live. I have businesses. I've invested wisely.
What are your businesses? Apart from the Chronicle.
Oh yes, I have invested in financial services, and I've just about to unveil a major printing press. In the next few months.
How major?
Big is a major.
How do you mean big?
Major, you see, the dream of every publisher or every newspaper owner is to have a printing facility. None of us in the private sector press, with the exception of maybe one or two, owns a printing press. We all farm out the contract to independent printers who do the printing for us, and we pay them. And to be able.
So how big is going to be your press? So we can print Chronicle?
Oh, it can print the whole Chronicle in 2 hours and fold at the same time, and do color separation. And it's a major thing. It's my dream come true.
Give me a better idea of how significant it is.
It's significant in the sense that it's comparable to graphic
equipment.
Yes.
You funded that?
Pardon me?
You funded that?
Yes.
Ginyami Concord said a few years ago that he calls you a billionaire. Are you a billionaire in Ghana?
Well, you see, now these days, if you have $130,000, you're a billionaire.
So you have that?
No, you don't have to have it in cash, sitting down in the bank. But yes.
You have enough assets?
I'm a multi-billionaire in the sense of that. Because my house, which I bought for 60 million cedis in 1990, whilst I was in London, is probably worth 1 billion cedis. My house in Accra. And that's not the only house I own. Do you understand? So, and I own a hotel, which is worth probably 6 billion, and that I started in 1990. Well, I think 1990. I mean, about 6-7 years ago. It was worth. I took some money from First Atlantic Bank and another bank, and then my own. Remember, I used to live in England, so so it cost me about $130,000 to put it together, to build a hotel. And if I tell you how it was financed, it's not going to. It's very interesting. But so that, and I'm a smart investor. And from then it was ongoing. And what I've used that for is very important, because it's not just, for example, I've built a 5-bedroom house for my mother, and that's important. I've financed scholarships in Takoradi. This is the 4th year with revenue from that hotel, which of course you don't know. Most people don't know. I've even funded a football team for young people from that hotel. And and a few things that I've done to benefit my community from that. So, and like I said, if a billionaire, if you have 1 or 2 houses and you're a billionaire, so be it. But no rich man has idle money sitting down. If I have idle money, I will invest it, which is one of the projects I'm doing now. I'm trying to.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, okay. Well, we'll come back to that a bit. But about Rawlings, the two of you are not friends at all. Rawlings and Kofi Coomson. You never sleep on the same bed.
No. I respect him as a former head of state. I think he was. First of all, I don't know whether there's any basis to say that we are not friends. I think he grew up in a different environment. I grew up in a different environment. I think he was a Takoradi boy sometime originally.
At some point, during his training as an officer.
Yeah, well, of course, maybe I was a bit too young to know him. I was totally removed from the politics of his time or the events of his time. In fact, when Rawlings struck in '79, I was in Nigeria. So I never, but I believed in him. I believed in the values. Corruption is going to curb corruption. And I believe in it actually, but I was sad when Akufo and co were killed. I wept in Nigeria, in my bed in Nigeria when the coup came. But I was not directly impacted. None of my family members were directly affected by what Rawlings did. But I know he forced people to sleep for about 3 years, which was bad. But I didn't know him. And so it's some of the things that he did that made me upset with him. So it was the ideas or the things that he did that I tried to resist. But people who were on the front line were people like Kwesi Pratt and Kwaku Baako, who were on the front line, and Kwesi Agble, and to some extent Freddie Blay, who were on the front line battering Rawlings. I was nowhere near that.
But you overtook them, some people reckon.
I was a journalist, and I was being a journalist, and I was being an investigative reporter. And as I said, the values that I believed in maybe directed me. So if I see bullying, intimidation, corruption, you will find me there battling it out. And it doesn't stop at the doorstep of Jerry Rawlings. It continues into the NPP administration.
So the media in Ghana presently, is it truly, or at least portions of it, is it truly in bed with government?
Somebody on your station yesterday was saying that with some authorities, on the program hosted by Mr. Helm, but I've been away for 2 years, and I'm not terribly, when I came back, or reading Ghana from the website, Ghana Web, not only Ghana Web, quite a few
other websites.
I wasn't too enthused about the things that I was reading. In fact, I was disappointed about the quality and the orientation of the press in Ghana. And I've been back for about 3 months now, and it's a different landscape. I'm not happy with the trend. It appears that...
Kofi, let's look at your own future now. Journalist, and I almost forgot to mention that you went to study law. Is it because you are afraid of the various suits against you that you yourself have gone to learn law, so perhaps you can better defend yourself?
I told the law school, in fact, my teacher in criminal law, which is my Achilles heel, that I'm doing this. I thought I was going to study constitutional law and public law. That was my interest. But they lumbered with me with 7 other core subjects: tort, property law, and all those things, which really, because that's what you have to do to finish, to qualify, to pass the academic phase of the law profession. I thought I was going to study just that. And I had to do, it's like LLB. In fact, I went to do the LLB, but they call it PGDL in the UK, Postgraduate Diploma in Law. And normally it's 3 years. And I don't have 3 years, so I did it in 1 year. And it's intensive. So I did it just so I could use public law to fight for the downtrodden, apologies to ICQ, and women, to fight deadbeat fathers who abuse women and just go off to Lagos or somewhere. And I wanted to be an instrument or a lawyer for such causes, you know. So I did that law for that, not to enrich myself, because thank God I'm comfortable, and then to understand the principles of law so that it makes you a better person as a journalist, makes you a better journalist, it makes you more cautious in your reporting. So these are the values these are the things that I wanted to get out from the law. I didn't really care about anything else or about making money out of law. So those were the principles or the ideas.
So you're going to be a lawyer, fully qualified lawyer in the future?
Well, if I sustain the interest, I have another academic year of law studies to do to become a lawyer. I'm not a lawyer. I'm a law student. So I have to think about it. The drive, the stimulus, or the thing that is driving me is still there, but it's competing against other interests, like politics.
Like politics. So is that part of your future? Kofi Coomson in politics? What kind of interest is that?
Yeah, listen, I was bored. I was bored for about 2-3 years, and you may have heard that Kofi Coomson is standing for elections. I'm sure the rumor mill was filled up with all those things. Frankly, after the NPP came to power, NDC was out, and NPP came in. I thought my work was done, and there was no excitement for me anymore. I wanted competition, and those who are close to me know that after every term, after 5 years, I wander, my mind wanders, looking for fresh challenges. And so when the time came, I thought, so I'm going to sit here for another 4 years, just doing what? So luckily, I'd put in a structure at the Chronicle, so as a businessman, so that I can live without affecting the Chronicle.
Self-sustaining.
Self-sustaining. And so I did with my little Forex bureau. I have a Forex bureau business as well. And I have the hotel. And these things, I could leave them and go and sit somewhere and learn. So it's at the new phase of my life. So I actually did, not only did I do law, I did a master's in media and communications management at Middlesex University. And then after that, I just went to law school because I just wanted to learn, and then come home.
So what kind of politics do you want to, from your own mouth, do you want to pursue?
No, politics, everybody is a political animal. I wanted to help. And I think it can help. Like I said, I've helped in my own small way, although most people don't know. But I thought, I've spoken to people who've done politics, because most of the people who are in government today, I know all of them on a personal basis, particularly on the ruling government. But even outside the ruling government, I know those on the other side, both CPP and DC. I know some of them, though we may not be the best of friends. I met Mr. P.V. Obing at the funeral of Mr. Anand Ketu, and I said, "Hi, P.V., how are you?" I shook his hands, and I said something about politics. He said, "Because of people like you, I have retired in politics." I said, "Oh, why? You're one of the finest brains. Why do you leave politics?" He said, "Because of you." I said, "What? But you have the finest brain. Ghana needs you." He said, "Is that so?" I said, "Yes. I respect his mind." He said, "Come, let's talk." You know, that's me. In fact, when I took these people to church, because I had an open mind,
Actually, I think it was Christmas time or something. I gave them Christmas cards.
And you give a Christmas card to Rollins' wife once?
Yes, because I don't know why people should think that because I am against your beliefs or the things you're doing, I hate the person. I don't, because I don't have, for example, Isaac Edumazi, I don't know him. I don't have a personal relationship for me to say, oh, this man is after my wife or my business. There's no reason. If you ask him, I'm sure he was asked, oh, why would, I think Komna Dumo, one of these people asked him, why would Kofi Coomson be against you? He said, I don't know. Frankly, it's the principles that are operating, my principles. If you are against, if the thing is going to affect the country, my God, I will come against you. It's national politics. I believe, for example, that it should be enough, it should be okay for me, because you can help more people in politics than you can help on my private capital. How many scholarships can I give? I can't give more than 100 scholarships, So in politics, you can affect more people. If you are
So in 2008, you're going to have a chance. There's a blank check for you in 2008. What are you going to write on it?
I'm going to write on it. I'm going to forge a bipartisan approach to issues concerning my region and national region. Yes, and the national. Like I said, I have a constituency in Cape Coast. I have a constituency in Ekumfi. As a matter of fact, Kwame Bettels, and I think Mr. Mafo, some time ago, approached me to run in Ekumfi. And I said, no, I don't think I've done any work there. My father is known there, and my father was a CPP man, and I am not necessarily a CPP man. In fact, I don't think they know me there, but my father has a good name in that region because of what he represents. My father is not corrupt, he's incorruptible, nothing was found against him, so he came out a free man. But I didn't, and I couldn't, because I don't think a poor man, I don't believe, for me, my values are that I don't think I should go into politics and want to be a member of parliament because I would make money out of it. I don't believe in that. So to that extent, I subscribe to Wayos and Brigadier Ashley Larson, who said that no poor man should go into competitive politics to want to be an MP or to be. So if I'm contesting for office, either for president or for member of parliament or for any position, I should be able to show people what I have done in my private life before and for the people, then, and show the network that you can, why they should vote for you, and use government money to do more things.
So we're going to see a lot of you in 2006, 7, and especially 2008.
Again, one of the people I consulted about this was Mensa Otabil. In fact, the scholarship fund that I set up, I had a discussion with Pastor Mensa Otabil. I need to pray about it. I need to have divine direction. And a lot of the things that I do, I ask my mother, and she's a very prayerful woman. And when the New South constituency wanted me to run, they went to see my mother. And my mother chased them out because of her experience as the wife of a former district commissioner who ended up in prison. So she doesn't want to know politics. So when she hears my name in connection, she's.
So a final decision is yet to be taken on that.
Yes, it's yet to be taken on that. I have to. But I have like everybody else, people will come to say, Charlie, can you run? Will you do this? And I've given it some thought, but again, I have to check.
Well, you've heard it from him, the great journalist, the businessman. He is also a law student, the comfortable man, and he has eyes on politics, a politics he believes is going to be different from the known politics. Well, my guest, simply Nana Kofi Coomson. Kofi, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.